Wow. Pura vida, mi gente. Yo, TGIF. Pura vida. ¿Qué me dice? What you guys saying? What's up? ¿Cómo están? How you guys doing? Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys making the time to be here once again. Out of your day, out of your busy day, especially on a Friday, right? Thanks for tuning in, guys. So I found a little something regarding this guy right here. So-called astronaut, right? Dodge the hijack. Oh, we ain't spinning on balls over here. But apart from that, apart from who he is and what he does, he got the drop. He found the drop in Mexico. In his journey in life, he found the drop in Mexico. I'm gonna read something he wrote. He has a book, and he wrote a little chapter of what he encountered on his archaeological trips in Mexico. Archaeological trips. What's he doing that? Another astronaut, just like the guy who went to the Tayos cave in Ecuador, right? Armstrong, I forget who it was. Armstrong? Was it Armstrong? One of the Apollo guys, right? So now this guy, he's also doing or accompanying people doing archaeological work in these ruins they found in some island off the coast of Mexico. We're gonna read what he says about it, real quick. I hope you guys enjoy it. See what we pull out. I haven't even read the whole thing, but I read a couple of the first. Well, like at least literally, I only heard the story. I read it, and then I found the book, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this with everybody and see what we can pull out. And I'm actually probably gonna drop another video later too. All right. Just want to say shout out to Carrie A. King. Spent a good amount of well, not a good amount, but at least I don't even know what 3-4 hours with him, helping him with his genealogy, and not really like just doing it, but more like talking about it, helping him kind of clean it up a little bit, like why might be good or bad, and a context behind the stories, of what we're finding. So that was a very interesting talk we found so much drop. I can literally make the carry files from his family and the history in Granada, and colonial history in Granada and Trinidad. Shout out to all the Trinidadians. Shout out to all the Grenadines. Is that what you guys have? Is that how you say it? Grenadines. Grenadines. Shout out to the people. Shout out to the indigenous people from that area. Shout out to also their Black European ancestors, which literally can be proven easily when you start messing around and looking into a lot of the Carib families. I'm telling you, and but a lot of the Indian is there for sure, and it was an interesting, even just convo. We just kind of doing research, found a lot of interesting things, debunking a couple things, and proving a couple more things of what we do here, how we research. That's how we do it. So shout out to Carrie. All right, let me go ahead and get the book ready. Welcome, welcome. So this is one of the books we actually found earlier, me and Carrie, like Enterprising Women, Gender, Race, and Power in the Revolutionary Atlantic. Kit Kat. Yeah, so his family's in here. So yeah, I'm telling you, it was really interesting, but we're gonna get into this. That's for another day. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe so you can get all the drop. Hit like. Help us get the info out. Hit like. Share the video. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. We're gonna get into this book. It says here, Los Angeles Times bestseller, Gordon Cooper with Bruce Henderson. A leap of faith. Oh yeah, a leap of faith. It has to be a faith because it's not real, right? You get it? You guys get it? You gotta believe it. You gotta believe. An astronaut's journey into the unknown. An exciting insider's look at projects Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, full of startling details about NASA's internal politics, disasters, glitches, and close calls. Publishers Weekly. All right, but we're not going to get into that part of the book. We're going to a specific chapter he created. Okay. And hopefully oh, here we go. Come on, load up. Don't hate. All right. Says here 2. This is like page 208. So I don't know if this is chapter 2 and the first was chapter 1. That's like a lot of, so I don't know. Or maybe part 2, right? So it says here, stumbling across history. Is the music all right in the background, guys? Everything's good? You guys can hear me? Let me know. All right. We're about to get started here with the drop. Let's see what he found. During my final year with NASA, I became involved in a different kind of adventure, undersea treasure hunting in Mexico. So it's funny. Listen to this, guys. This is a big drop right here. Shout out to Drop. Shout out to the flat Earth, so-called flat Earth drop. The plane. So he was a astronaut, right? And then he became what? Underwater or undersea treasure hunting, because they're experts in underwater, right? What space? Water's above, water's below. Where do they train? These astronauts in pools and water. A lot of that is Hollywood. It is water. That's why he's good at undersea treasure hunting in Mexico. He took up the hobby since he already did it. I was a partner in the privately financed venture and helped raise money for the expedition. It was well organized until things started to go wrong with that. I had lots of experience. Archives in Spain had been researched and descriptions found on 3 mid-17th century treasure-laden Spanish galleons that had been tracking northward in the Gulf of Mexico, heading up eastern coast of Mexico. When several British men of war descended upon them, desperate to avoid attack, the galleons headed inland and eventually steered up a water pathway that their charts showed as an entrance to a large inland body of water. The passageway narrowed abruptly, but the galleons continued on, unable or unwilling to turn around. In the nick of time, they came across an inlet. All 3 galleons turned into it, but the water was too shallow for the 19-foot draft, and they ripped out their wooden bottoms. As the galleons went down, the horrified crews found themselves thrashing about in the water with hungry sharks. It became a shark feed. Only a couple dozen crewmen survived, and of those, only a handful made it back to Spain to recount their nightmare. The Crown dispatched a search team to the location in an effort to recover the loot that had gone down in the shallows. But every time divers went into the water, they were attacked by the sharks. The team gave up and returned empty-handed. Old charts showed where the galleons had gone down, but 300 years can change things a lot. What had once been shallow could now be 30 feet of water, or even high and dry. There was only one way to find out, and that was to mount an expedition. That's how I found myself in a rented Cessna with a hired pilot at the controls, zooming low over an island set in the middle of a large bay. Our team, a dozen certified divers with scuba gear, had gotten some good magnetometer readings around a nearby peninsula, meaning that there was metal of some kind scattered throughout the area. The chart showed that the bay was in the vicinity of where the shallow inlet had once been. The plan was to hire the plane, land a couple of guys on the island with an inflatable raft, and nose around. I volunteered for the flight, along with National Geographic photographer named Otis Imboden. Sorry. We pointed out where we wanted to land, but when we sat down, the plane started sinking in soft sand. The Mexican pilot started to panic. I tried to calm him down, explaining that we'd unload our equipment and make a firm footprint for the plane. When we had removed most of our stuff, he revved up the engine and took off. We had pointed out firmer ground. where he could land, but instead he hightailed it home. Among the gear we left in the plane were shirts, canteens, wallets, hats, and sunglasses. It was bloody hot, and there wasn't a stick of shade. We had come there to find millions of dollars worth of gold, but within no time there was something we wanted even more: a cold drink. We started walking, and we walked and walked, probably for a couple of hours, but it felt like half a day. The first person we came across was an old man on a little burro, a donkey. I told him we were very thirsty and asked where we could get a drink. He said there was a cantina straight down the trail. A cantina is a bar. We continued on until we came to it at the water's edge. It was about the size of a small room, but it had seats in the shade and cold drinks. Imagine them. I know that feeling right there. So, hey, appreciate you, Thunderstone. Thank you for the donation. Much love. The photographer and I pooled our resources. We had 35 cents between us. It was enough to buy 2 big orange soda pops, right? I think we're talking about like the 50s, 60s, or 70s, right? Like they're talking about buying with 35 cents, 2 big orange soda pops. We sat there drinking our sodas, and boy, they were the best thing either of us had ever tasted. I asked the lady running the cantina if she knew about any sunken ships and recovered treasure in the neighborhood. Oh, much treasure, senor, she said. She claimed that there used to be beautiful gold statues and all kinds of other valuables right on the beach. When we drained our sodas, we went for a walk on the beach. As we strolled along, we found arrowheads and blades made out of flint-like black stone. We began to fill our pockets. As we were doing so, I looked up and saw this guy's head sticking up over the top of the jungle, watching us from some vantage point. I waved to him, and he waved back. Pretty soon, we were yelling friendly greetings back and forth in Spanish. He beckoned us into the jungle, and we went inland. He turned out to be a middle-aged Indian farmer with rudimentary tools at his side. We found him standing on one of 2 big dirt mounds, hoeing the ground and planting corn. The mounds were pyramid-shaped and huge, 50 to 60 feet high. Haha, mounds, huh? It's not just the North American thing. You see how it connects the people, right? The culture. The mounds were pyramid-shaped and huge, 50 to 60 feet high and 40 yards wide. They had once been rock formations that had long ago decayed. Looking closer, we realized that the mounds represented some kind of old ruins. All right? These are old ruins. And that's how we made our big discovery. Completely by accident. Are you talking about real pyramid, like stone under there? You see what's going on here? He made a discovery, so-called, right? Or did he really know? Is he just saying, oh, I discovered this, I ran into it by accident? Other members of our team had become concerned about us and sent a boat out looking for us. They finally found us just before nightfall. We brought our colleagues back to the ruins. The next day, they dug around the base of the mounds. We found more artifacts and also some bone fragments, all of which we bagged. We took them back to Texas with us and had them carbon tested at a private lab. He got connections, right? He's an astronaut, right? Along with the arrowheads and blades from the beach. They turned out to be 5,000 years old. All right? Look how he's doing. He's telling you with exclamation point. They turned out to be 5,000 years old. You guys understand? That's when they're trying to tell you literally history begins in so-called ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia and all that. So you're talking about the same time. And again, this is with their carbon dating. So we got to trust their carbon dating. But even their carbon dating is saying is that old? That old? Come on now. Mounds, They're already building mounds 5,000 years ago, right? Just like in North America. We had planned to return to the site with some heavy hydraulic equipment and take those mounds down to nothing. You guys hear this? He's like saying it like nothing. Like, hey, we were actually planning to go destroy these things, take these down to nothing. To nothing? Who knew what kinds of valuables they were to uncover? Look at them, they're looting, like literally, like pirates, like a real pirate, like a modern day pirate. Looting. Treasure, huh? You don't care what you destroy, huh? You don't care what kind of archaeological magnificence it, might have on history. Like, you're just gonna go, oh, I wonder what we can find inside. We all saw huge dollar signs. Ding, 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 ting, 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 ting. Dollar signs dancing before our eyes. At least he's honest, man. You see the hijack, he's a hijack. He's honest. We would just load an airplane or two and depart with our rich bounty. He's literally telling you, hey, this was my plan, literally. I didn't care about no archaeology. This was my plan to steal everything. As in finders keepers. Okay, he wrote this. Steal everything. Not tell nobody. Keep all the riches to himself. He's connected. He got a private expedition and everything. Who can afford things like that? And then now you're gonna steal everything. I'm just saying. But when we learned the age of the artifacts, we realized that what we found had nothing to do with 17th century Spain. And we knew we couldn't destroy ancient history. So they're like, oh, this is 5,000 years old. Wait, hold up. We can't destroy this. They won't let us. But because he would have done it if he could. They were not going to let us do this. This is archaeological. We'll be in trouble with Mexico. They can't do that, guys. You understand? It's protected. Things like this are protected. You got to report them. So he already knew, damn, I can't destroy this. We're talking about some really old guys here. I contacted the Mexican government and was put in touch with the head of the National Archaeology Department, Pablo Bush Romero. Bush, huh? I told him I'd meet him in the coastal town of Tampico in 2 weeks, that I had something important to show him. Together, we went back to the ruins, which the government knew nothing about. The Mexican government ended up putting some funding into the archaeological dig. The age of the ruins was confirmed. 3000 BC, 5000, right? Again, with their own carbon dating, which might be wrong. It might be way older. It might be way older. Remember how we debunked the whole carbon dating? This all theories. There's a lot of discrepancies with carbon dating and what they use to date these things. Either way, with their own science, literally older than Egypt, literally older than Mesopotamia, no, literally. Come on now, because it's already built. There's got to be years of development before you get to the achievement of building pyramids, the knowledge, that's math, sacred geometry, masonry, knowledge, architecture. There has to be a process before that where people develop writing, develop learning, all that stuff, mound build, all that, agriculture. So even before that, right, it goes way before that. So Khalid, Ali, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for that. So they ended up confirming. So he had his own private scientists do the carbon. They say, yeah, 5,000. Then the Mexican government did their own and they confirmed it. All right. For anybody listening. For anybody listening. So let's see something real quick. I just want to show you something, real quick. Just to have context and reference. Okay. So when they're saying, again, we're just surfing the wave live. Ancient Egypt, right? Ancient Egypt. It emerged from prehistoric Egypt around 3100 BC, right? 3,100, that's literally almost the same thing. Listen, go back to the book, right? 3,100, 3,000, just 100 years off, right? But this is an actual find, and they actually did the carbon dating test, and they didn't even know about it. Do they even talk about it still today? When is this? This is in the 70s, right? '60s, '70s, and the Mexican government, nobody knew about it. But yet you had all your history written already about the ancient world and ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, when you had just found all these things in the Americas, and you already had history down to a point, like from Adam to to Bush. So 3,000 BC, right? So we talking about as old as any of they say in ancient Egypt, right? We're talking about same time, because this is their carbon dating we got to trust, right? They don't want, of course, they're not going to say, hey, this is older than Egypt. And let's just put it 100 years below. Let's just round it off. Let's just round it off to 3,000 BC. So you're telling me all your tests gave you 3,000 BC exactly. Exactly 5,000 years, right? That's what the test said, right? You guys understand what I'm saying, right? I'm being sarcastic. So anyways, so compared with other advanced civilizations, relatively little was known about this one. Guys, comes to what I was just literally talking about. Okay? So you already had history written down, you already teaching it in universities, yet you didn't even know this existed, which is just as old. So how do you explain this in your history? If there was nobody here supposedly before Columbus, so-called, talking about Sarco, Sephardic Portuguese Jew. And he said they called the Olmec. Did they call themselves the Olmec? So you had a whole site here from the so-called Olmec that you didn't know about this whole time. The Olmec, huh? You guys already know what's up with the Olmec, right? All right. They lived in large area bounded on the east by Tuxtla Mountains and by the Sierra Madre Mountains on the south. All right, we're gonna get a little more funky now. So they were stretching from the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America. Now what? It was a humid terrain with an abundance of water. Lakes, rivers, and marshes. Olmec artifacts had been discovered only within the past century. The majority as recently as the mid-20th century. Okay? Do you guys understand what they're telling you? They're just finding this stuff in the 1900s and you already had history written down. You understand what I'm trying to tell you guys? Like, talking about, ancient world, the ancient, well, what about this? Oh, we don't know nothing about it. So how do you know you didn't miss something? If you didn't know nothing about all this stuff you're finding now in the Americas, how do you know you didn't miss something important? And you already have all your textbooks written. Metropolis, yeah. Olmec artifacts had been discovered only within the past century. The majority as recently as the mid-20th century. Even so, the Olmecs are considered the mother culture of civilization in Mesoamerica. Remember my out of Olmec theory videos, guys. Remember how it's very complex. It's very complex. There's a connection to South America. There's a connection to North America with the Olmec. Like it's very complex. And then later on, other migrations, right? So it says Among other things, the Olmecs have been credited with developing writing in Mexico. They also developed the concept of zero and positional numbers 3,000 years before Europe did. They greatly advanced agricultural practices, which allowed them to produce high yields from small areas and feed their urban centers. That is the way you settle down and create civilizations, create cities, create pyramids, architecture. You have to have agriculture. And this is what I was saying earlier. So before you giving a date, oh, they built it. Oh, well, what about the progress to get to that? You're missing thousands of years before that. And we got to rely on your carbon dating anyways, which we already know has a lot of hijack, especially because they try to fit their historical narratives. They can't debunk themselves with their Darwinism and all that, right? Either way, agricultural practices was very important in ancient America. We brought that to the whole world. That's how civilization started, through agriculture, when people had time or large yields, as it says here, to feed urban centers. Understand, they were known for building great public works. And those, again, included ballparks, ball games, libraries, universities. So they had time to have leisure because they had an abundance of food through agriculture. That's what creates civilization, guys. And that can be found here in the Americas, the oldest agriculture. Follow the food source, follow the food. They were known for building great public works. You understand? The Olmecs were the first of 4 great civilizations arising in the Americas that rivaled Greece and Rome. So-called Greece. What Greece and Rome? What Greece and Rome? And we know we got Dupacs and we got Rios talking about Palenque and what they found there, and how they got statues of, and they look like they got Roman sandals and Roman capes on, and just like the Iroquois also dressed the same way. And what you talking about, man? Roman and Greek. We already know that's Hellenized people. Not specifically one nation, like it's a mixture of a different peoples. Romanized, Hellenized. A whole history glorified, added into fake chronologies. That's what I'm trying to tell you. What Greece and Rome? The Olmec civilization lasted about 500 years. Yeah, right. Lasted a lot longer than that. It has been around. Olmec political, social, religious, and economic characteristics laid the groundwork for the 3 pre-Columbian civilizations that followed Maya, Toltec, Aztec. A lot of hieroglyphics were found at our site. Listen to this. Listen to what he's going to tell you right here. They found hieroglyphics, right? They had writing, right? Oh, the Americans didn't have writing. The Indians didn't. Man, what you talking about, man? They closely what? Resembled Egyptian hieroglyphics. Okay? If it talks like a duck, walks like a duck, hieroglyphics like a duck, then it's a duck, right? Then it is the so-called Egyptians, right? Where is ancient Egypt, guys? Same time period, 3000 BC, right? When ancient Egypt started, supposedly. That's the day they want to give. That's the day they want to give, right? But they were Olmec syllabic signs used to make pictures. Oh, they look like Egyptian hieroglyphics, but in reality, it's ancient American, so-called Olmec syllabic signs. Phonetic, which became phonetic into words. Remember my phonetic video coming out of the glyphs of the Americas and how it can become the Paleo-Hebrew and the first letters and stuff. The so-called Phoenicians going around the world with it. The Olmec sculpture found at the site was divided between representations of supernatural beings and of humanoids. What? So you see, guys, what are we talking about here? We're gonna have to follow up on this, right? What did they find? Skilled engineers. The Olmec had managed to transport huge blocks of basalt. Transport, or is it geopolymer? And other stones from quarries more than 50 miles away for their sculpted monuments. Engineers, farmers, artisans, and traders The Olmec had a remarkable civilization, but it is still not known where they originated or where are they from. We don't know. Well, they might not be from the Americas, maybe because you are finding them in the Americas, but maybe you can't say that. I don't know why. I don't know why the most logical would not be the most plausible, right? You guys understand? Like, what do you mean? You're finding them in the Americas. Start from there. You know, start from there and try to debunk that, right? So if you find something in Africa, right? I find an ancient people in Africa. Okay, let's say I'm in the Saqqara pyramid in Africa, right? They say the same thing. We don't know who built it. They say the exact same thing. We don't know who built the Saqqara pyramid that looks like a step pyramid in Africa, right? So why don't they do the same over there? We don't know where they originated or the identity of their predecessors. Why don't they say the same? They try to make them Africans, right? Right away, because they finding them there in Africa, right? So you're finding all this stuff in the Americas. What do you mean? Where did they originate? Let's start from there. Prove the rest wrong. Like prove wrong, right? I was given a few little, or prove the rest right. Like you're out of the fusionist theories of people coming over. Prove that right. So I was given a few little artifacts to keep. Although most of what was unearthed rightly ended up on display at universities and museums in Mexico. Among the findings that intrigued me the most, celestial navigation symbols and formulas that, when translated, turned out to be mathematical formulas used to this day for navigation. Listen, because he's an astronaut, astronauts are, we got to give it to them. They are a little smart with their little, mainstream education, science and math and all that, right? We can give them the props on that. A lot of them, when they get to that level of becoming astronauts, they're on deep in the hijack. They're deep part of the hijack. No matter if they're ill experts of math or science, science, a lot of science is hijacked. Science, Darwinism is science, right? So a lot of science is hijacked. So anyways, because his knowledge of that stuff, he was able to notice how the ancient people, so-called Olmec, were mapping the skies, knew everything about the celestial bodies and everything, of being able to tell time and create calendars and also astrology, right? So-called. He's saying here that these formulas are still being used today for navigation and accurate drawings of constellations, some of which wouldn't be officially discovered until the age of modern telescopes. The Olmec already knew about these celestial things, the stars, the constellations, before the so-called modern historians or scientists found them with their modern telescopes. You guys here? We're advanced people over here. What you mean? True old world. I was aware that archaeologists the world over had discovered places, artifacts, and written records that defied rational explanation. This naturally led to speculation that certain ancient mysteries might be attributed to ancient astronauts from another world. Here we go with the hijack. Of course, the hijack's gonna add his hijack. He knows that's not even real because he's been to fake space. He knows that's not even real. So he's saying this naturally led to speculation that certain ancient mysteries might be attributed to ancient astronauts, right? History Channel, right? Ancient astronauts. Already with the hijack in the 70s and 60s, before they dropped cable and created History Channel's series, right? From another world, or you mean from beyond the world poles? Oh, now we're talking about something else now. It's the stone spears in Ticolandia. Yeah, that's right, Joseph. Got the video on that. The celestial man mapping the whole. Come on, man. Navigation's right there. Some of the questions were as old as who really built Stonehenge? Yeah, the hijack, because it might have something to do with American Indians, ancient people coming out of the ancient America, connecting with British Isles, or at a time when they was always connected, the land bridge. But what if Stonehenge is from the 1950s? There's like videos showing them remodeling it. It's crazy, guys. You guys watch it. I'm not kidding. The Olmec had used the same means of celestial navigation as the Egyptians and the Minoan civilization on Crete. And at the same time, huh? Guys, look, let's be logical, right? Uh-oh, who's the Minoans? Check it out. Remember, the Minoans were carrying the purest copper in the world to Europe. Right? You guys remember that, right? We got a whole presentation on that. The Minoans had this very pure copper. They don't know where they were getting it from. There's a myth about Minoans and them connected to Atlantis and all that, right? Anyways, the purest copper is from Michigan in the world. When they did the testing, it was the exact same because they found in the Mediterranean Minoan ships, supposedly, right? Minoan, what they call Minoan. Did they call themselves Minoan? Did they call themselves Olmec? Huh. Anyways, so they got the copper, which they did the testings, and it was exact match to the one in Michigan, the purest copper, right? We already know ancient Egypt is here. So when we talk about Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, Greek word, Tamari, America, right? Shout out to UBTB. Check out the previous presentations on ancient Egypt being here. Like, we got so much drop on that. So, just like the Egyptians, huh? Again, as I said earlier, if they talk like a duck, if they got hieroglyphics like a duck, if they got the same means of celestial navigation as a duck, then it is a duck. Anyways, Minoans, huh? So Minoans coming from America with the purest copper. Oh, Olmec at the same time as at the same time as Crete. Olmec, wait, Carib, seafaring. Oh, I get it. Okay, the navigation stars used by those civilizations are still in existence, and it relates to the stone fears in Costa Rica. You're right, Joe. That's exactly right. Same time period. In fact, the same stars were used by Apollo to navigate to the moon and back. Uh-oh, Apollo, huh? Tough, man. The same. Remember. The Hermetics comes in with the cosmogony, with the space stuff. Them Cimbri, Britain, Naga stemming from Islandia to the Labrador flow. Yeah, remember that flow too. We just read it the other day, going down into Mexico, right? So this left me wondering, why have celestial navigation signs if they weren't navigating celestially? Huh. How do you know they weren't? Anyways, that could be used for seafaring. Come on, man. That's not just for flying, but seafaring. You can use that for seafaring too, right? But either way, how you know they weren't flying? Did this advanced navigational knowledge develop independently in 3 different places in the ancient world at the very same time? Look what he's asking. This is a good question. He's trying to point out something here. If everything started out, and we're talking about in the same time period over there in the world, when they're telling us Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, 3000 BC, right? That's the same time frame as this, guys. They're saying everything came from there, but then we got a whole other civilization here at the same time already doing pyramids and celestial navigation. Come on. Did they come out at the same time? In 3 different places. He's dropping he's trying to hint. Come on, guys, this is right here. If not, then how did it get from Egypt to Crete to Mexico? Good question, man. We know Egypt is here. We know Crete has something to do with so-called Atlanteans. That's how, man. You guys understand the context. We're seeing it in reverse. He's seeing it in reverse. You mean from Mexico to Crete to Egypt, to the culture? And if so, reason dictates they must have had help. So yeah, please watch my Stone Fears of Costa Rica, the mystery Stone Fears. I uploaded like a couple weeks back. Check that video out again. You'll see who was really navigating, who started that, and brought that knowledge to the rest of the world. how it makes sense with this and all the other videos we've learned about. And remember what the most famous historian of navigation said. We're gonna have to do a whole video just on him saying that so people can not forget. He said if anybody was to cross the Atlantic, it would have to have been from the American side. The currents are stronger, the winds are more favorable. It's 4 times harder coming the other way around. That's from the most famous navigation historian. So, how did it get to Mexico? Why has everybody got the same knowledge? Because it's the same duck, man. The true old world, man. And if so, reason dictates they must have had help. If they did have help, from whom? Now he's trying to, I hope he's not trying to add the alien hijack. Yeah, UFOs, you see? Yeah, you see? This is what I'm saying. The hijack is always going to be the hijack. The hijack is always going to be the hijack. He doesn't know what else to be. He's the hijack, the incubator hijack. Oops, sorry. I mean, the hijack's always going to be the hijack. All right, guys, that's it. I just wanted to drop this. I'm probably going to go live in about, 20-30 minutes again. All right, if you're down to read a couple more things at a whole different subject, for today. I just want to drop this real quick. What he found, what he admitted, what they know. They can't say, literally, how can you say the other side's first if you're literally saying it's at the same time? You've proven that it was that so-called at the same. So why are you saying that's first? So it could have been here first then, which we have already proven that in many ways, right? I hope you guys appreciate it. I know it was a little shorter video, but I'm trying to come back today again. That's why I'm doing this. Just wanted to drop this. And I also working on another ball games video of the American Indians, especially for the new people. Put it some of the old research together, different videos, and we put it together in one. All right, real quick, just a real quick drop on that as well. Just remember how it all lines up. All right, appreciate anybody who came through to hear me read this. Check out what Gordon Cooper was saying. Gordon Cooper got the drop, but then he tried to add the hijack. He's supposed to be an intelligent person. So he's saying, who could have done this? Who could have done this? Oh dear, it had to be the little gray aliens I saw when I was in Mars. All right. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. One love. Pura vida. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow. Sound 17. Yo, shout out to Science. Yo.